right, guys, what's going on? Todd Lamb here with Doc Goodale. Today we are talking about a six-pack. Listen, that is one of my favorite body parts aesthetically to make sure that is always dialed in. It's the bedrock of the appearance of health. There's a lot of guys out there that end up with a six-pack that probably aren't healthy or the way they've gone about it. But for me to be lean enough to display that six-pack is something that I value. And at 50 years old, it's not the easiest thing to do, but I always make sure that I'm on point. What I do notice is guys are continuously doing it incorrectly. I see them in the gym doing loads and loads of sit-ups where they're only activating their hip flexors. They don't have the glutes engaged. And so their rectus isn't even firing. And what they're actually doing is shutting down their abs and causing fat to collect around their belly because it goes into protective mode. We talk a lot about this around Apex Abs, that program, but the fact that guys are doing more harm than good with the wrong exercises is continuously coming up. So what we're gonna do here is cover some slightly different movements that you probably know already, but we're just gonna do a variation so that we can actually activate the entire six-pack muscle properly. Doc, what do you got for us?
Okay guys, so first of all, I want to show you my favorite tool when it comes to training the six-pack. So when it comes to training the six-pack...
I thought he was gonna say me. Just kidding.
That's mean, buddy. I wouldn't be that mean. We're nice, friendly Canadians. So when it comes to targeting the six-pack, we're targeting this rectus abdominis, right? The rectus abdominis runs from the, on the pelvis here up into the ribs. So if we really want to get that big and strong, we've got to focus on crunchy movements, not sit-up movements, which are predominantly working the hip flexors. So one of the things that I love, especially when we're here at home, we might not have some of the fancy tools that we have at a gym, is just an ab mat. These you can buy on any online realtor for like less than 20 bucks, and they're a great investment to have. And why are they a great investment? It's because this is going to go in my lower back. I'm going to show you guys that right now. And by putting it in my low back, guys, what I'm actually doing is I'm allowing my six-pack, my rectus, to stretch more than it would be able to stretch if I was just doing these on the floor. And by stretching more, I can put that muscle under a greater amount of tension over a greater range of motion, which means it's gonna work harder, and therefore that harder work will help it develop both stronger and larger, okay? So these ab mats, great investment. I can't recommend them highly enough. Now, as Todd was mentioning earlier, we want to work on the correct technique when we're crunching. We want to make sure that we are using that rectus abdominis and that we're not allowing those hip flexors to overtake the movement. So a little trick that you guys can do to really help those hip flexors shut off and really cue in on that rectus is engage those glutes a little bit by thinking about squeezing a quarter between the butt cheeks. And then what I'm doing here, you might not be able to see it, but I'm kind of flexing those hamstrings by trying to pull those heels towards my butt. Once again, trying to help shut those hip flexors off so that when I crunch up, which isn't a huge, large movement, it's predominantly rectus that's doing this and much less the hip flexors. If you find it tough to engage those hamstrings, guys, couple little tricks you can do is to stick like a foam roller between your heels and your butt, or even a larger medicine ball, and kind of squeeze that, and that might help you get that feeling a lot better. So when we use this ab mat in kind of combination with some activations on the muscles of the back of the body, it's going to help us activate that core musculature on the front of the body much better. Now, when I'm training core, I kind of like to use a combination of loaded and unloaded movements, and even some holds or isometric movements. So I'm going to show you guys one of my go-to drop sets that I do every week as part of my training. I train core usually 3 to 4 days a week, just like all my other muscle groups in my strength training sessions. I'm training my core predominantly 8 to 15 reps. I want that core to hypertrophy because...
That means grow, boys. That means grow.
Because that's going to help you see it, especially as I lose more and more fat with diet. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to load my crunch first by taking a dumbbell, putting it across the chest. I'm squeezing those glutes, I'm squeezing those hamstrings. and I'm crunching up, squeezing that rectus. And I really want to think about breathing out at the top of that movement, help get that extra little contraction. So I'll do about 8 or 12 reps with this load across my chest. On the last rep of 8 or 12, I'm going to drop this sucker to the side. And now I'm going to continue to rep out with just body weight, 8 to maybe 15 reps. On that last rep, when I'm starting to really feel fatigue building, I might only have 2 to 4 more reps left. I'm going to hold that last position for an isometric hold, maybe 20 to 40 seconds until I start to feel that kind of fatigue and I can't keep those other muscle groups activated and I might feel the wrong muscles kicking in. So I'll do that drop set 2 to 3 times. You know, usually near the end of a workout, that's where I'll throw my core work in. But guys, you know, invest in that ab mat. You don't need a ton of weight if you're doing it correctly. And you combine that loaded movement with a very similar unloaded movement and a very similar hold. Great way to overload the muscle. And it's going to help take your ab training to the next level.
Nice. Guys, there's another component that we'll talk about in another video. Some people cannot do the flexion extension or these high arcs because of degenerative back pain, issues with the discs, things like that. We'll cover that in another video.
100%.
But if you've got a healthy back and you have no issues around doing this type of wider, longer range of motion type movements, make sure you lock into one of these bad boys to extend it like Doc Adale says. So anything else to add before we say see ya? No, I just want to thank you guys. If you've got any questions, whatever, please don't hesitate to leave them down below. We'll always get back to them. Yep. If you're liking the content, if you're enjoying it, thumbs up will always help. We'd love it if you do that. And you know, just thanks as always, guys. Love helping out and love coming here to give you guys some advice. Nice. Make sure you hit subscribe and we'll see you in the next video.